Russian forces are accused of attacking a train station that was being used as a hub to evacuate civilians. The Kremlin has denied involvement. We should note Russian officials have generally denied targeting civilians throughout the invasion, despite extensive evidence to the contrary. Even after this latest attack, Ukrainian officials say they will press forward with evacuations from the region.
CBS News foreign correspondent Deborah Pata joins us now for more on this. Deborah, what more do we know about the attack on the train station?
Well, it was in a place called Kramatorsk, the Kramatorsk railway station, when a missile hit what you've correctly described as a main escape route for people fleeing the Donbass region. Every day, civilians gather there trying to get a train out of the area because that is now where Russia is focusing its energy, pounding cities in Luhansk and in Donetsk. So every single day you're going to find civilians there. When you see the aftermath, abandoned luggage, children's toys are sadly becoming an increasingly common sight in wreckage after bombs, and prams strewn in that wreckage. This was not a military target. There were civilians here, and over 50 have died, amongst them 5 children. The attack seemed also very personal as well, because inscribed on that rocket were the words, "For the children." So increasingly, more and more stories of horror coming out of this country. Every day seems to bring fresh new trauma.
What seems to be the motivation from what you're hearing on the ground? We see more evidence of these war crimes as Russian forces even withdraw from northern Ukraine. What are you hearing about the why on targeting not only civilians, but civilian places where people live and worship?
Well, interestingly, some evidence has come from intercepted intelligence by Germany. They intercepted conversations between Russian soldiers, and it seems that one of the things that's being stated there is that they are trying to terrorize towns so that people are fearful and don't put up much resistance when Russian soldiers get there. Certainly that would seem the case from that intercepted intelligence, but obviously it's always difficult to know exactly what a motive is. But as towns have been liberated, the extent of the damage caused by the Russian occupation of them is increasingly being known. So we're seeing homes, buildings ruined, entire businesses and bodies, more and more still being uncovered. You know, it's not often, sadly, that you get this kind of horrific, graphic, visual evidence of war crimes. Often people who investigate war crimes arrive long after the atrocities are committed and war crime scenes have been cleaned up. We saw the clumsy attempts and horrific attempts to bury citizens in mass graves, but this time people are getting there and starting to collect that evidence. Now, one crime that isn't spoken about much but seems to be emerging is that of rape being used as a weapon of war. We spoke to Kira Riddick today. She's a parliamentarian and an activist. She's collecting war crime evidence. She wants to hold perpetrators accountable. She visited Bucha the day after its liberation and heard one story after another of women being raped, a story of husbands being shot trying to defend their wives. One woman was raped repeatedly for over many, many days in front of her 6-year-old boy, and the victims are getting younger and younger. Russian soldiers raping teenagers. In one instance, they wanted to rape a young teenage girl, and the older sister, around 20, stepped forward and said, "Take me instead." So Riddick, this parliamentarian, is the person who's collecting that evidence. She wants to take it to the International Criminal Court and have these men held accountable.
This is horrible.
Difficult to hear and really unprecedented in the way that we're seeing this play out in real time, as you mentioned, Deborah. You also mentioned where Russia is focusing most of its energy right now. That is in the eastern part of the country. How much worse is it expected to get there?
And that is what everybody is asking, because the images are so horrific as it is. As you say, Russia's been pushed out of Kiev and the surrounding areas. That is here in the north. They are now focusing their efforts on the Donbass region, which includes Luhansk and Donetsk. And it's already taken such a pounding, places like Mariupol, where there are still civilians trying to escape. And it looks like it might increase in intensity. One Ukrainian soldier told us that they have information that Russia could be planning on using chemical weapons, because they've given antidotes to Russian soldiers against their own chemical weapons. And the foreign minister of Russia, Dmitry Peskov, has said that they believe that they're going to win this war and take Donbass in the very near future. One date being bandied around is the 9th of May, that Russia might be aiming for that as a symbolic day for Russia. It's the day when they had victory over the Germans in World War II. And they want to sort of tie it almost into their false claims that they're here to denazify Ukraine. But in the run-up to that period, I think we're going to see a lot worse and a lot harder efforts being focused. Their troops and their reinforcements have been moved to the east along the coast, because, as you know, Russia is trying to create a land bridge with Crimea.